Hey everyone, apologies that half the screen is going to be drippy. It's snowing. It's snowing on Christmas Eve, but we are here to hopefully narrate for you Book 5 of the Wizard of Oz series. The first 6 books which we finished, and those of you who haven't followed along, we're now reading Dickens at night, because Dan and I need a break. Anyway, this is book 5, and in my personal experience, this was actually the one I didn't get until after we had bought books 6 and 8, so I don't remember the story as well, but I actually do like it. This is one of the last peripatetic adventures before stuff starts getting real weird. Anyway, in this one, we open with Dorothy hanging out in Kansas, good old Dust Bowl, Kansas, and Shaggy Man's just hopping along, on the side of the road, big old hobo, real nice guy, just real shaggy, and he ends up asking her for the directions to the road to Butterfield, and she tries to tell him, and he's all like, yeah, would you go show me? And so she decides to take him to the intersection, and says, there's the road to Butterfield, and he's like, good, I don't want to go that way, somebody owes me money, and you might want to pay me back. Which you're like, okay. And so while they're standing there, Dorothy's going, okay, I don't understand you. All the roads start spinning around and around like the spokes on a wheel, and they're all like, what do we do? What do we do? And while they're spinning, the Shaggy Man tells Dorothy like why she likes him and why everybody likes him, which is because of this little love magnet he got from an Eskimo. And they eventually decide, okay, we got to go some direction. We have no idea which way is home. So she decides 7's a good number, right? 7's a good number. So she just...
You glossed over the part where she tried to find. She took multiple different routes because of the spokes. And she didn't know which spoke to take. And she thought that maybe Toto would be able to find it because dogs should be able to find their way home because they can sniff. But Toto got lost too. So, back to you.
Oh, he's right. I missed all that there. That's what you get trying to condense notes. Anyway, she picks the 7th road and off they go. Fa la 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 la, adventuring again. And on that road, she stumbles upon, and this I find is probably the most annoying character in Oz. So if you hear me sigh a lot when referring to Button Bright, just because I find him freaking annoying. He's a little kid with long curly hair, sitting around in a sailor suit, and he's dumb as a box of rocks. Anyway, he plays integral parts in this story, but he is, probably one of my least favorite Oz characters. On the plus side, I guess you get to see Oz's commentary on a smart girl versus a dumb boy, so maybe there's that at play, but yeah, he's mostly just annoying in my opinion. Anyway, they pick him up because they're like, where's your mom? He's like, don't know. Like, what's your name? Don't know. My grandma calls me Button Bright, and here we are. So they're like, whatever, come along. Better off with us than with nobody, right? And they end up stumbling upon Foxville, where everybody is a fox. Because foxes are cool and all that. And of course, they have a king, and his name is King Dox Renyard IV. And while they're there, the king of the foxes thinks Button Bright would look a hell of a lot better with a fox head on him. So he gives him a fox head, which nobody's really thrilled with, although I would argue it's an improvement. And the king of the foxes is like, well, he might get smarter because he'll be craftier, and he looks better and he'll be wiser. So it's a win-win. And then he also has like the gall after giving out fox head to be like, so Ozma's birthday party's coming up. Can I get an invite to that? And somehow Dorothy, of course, being a nice Midwesterner, is just like, yeah, sure. I'll put in a word for you.
As long as you don't give me a fox head.
Yeah, exactly. Don't give me a fox head.
Wants a fox head.
And they have like food that they can feed them, and this comes up a little later when we get to the next town. So they have like the foxes eat decent food because they're foxes, so they're carnivores, they eat stuff most of us are familiar with. And so they have an okay time with being able to eat and dine with the foxes, and aside from the fox head on Button Bright, they don't make out too badly on that one. Going up to the next city though, they come across, stumbling around in the road, this beautiful girl with gauzy draperies all around her, and she's dancing around, and it turns out she is the Rainbow's daughter named Polychrome. And Polychrome is one of my favorite Oz characters and totally makes up for Button Bright being in this book. Sorry. Opinions. You came for them, right? Anyway. I wasn't sure if Dan had something to say and a look on his face. Anyway.
I don't remember how she fell off rainbow.
She was just dancing on the rainbow with her sisters and she got distracted and she just slid down the side of the rainbow. And the dad picked up the rainbow, the rainbow god, and just like wandered off without her.
Okay.
Yeah, she just accidentally got dropped off the end of the rainbow and she eats fun things like do cakes and little droplets and all sorts of interesting stuff. But she's really lighthearted and fun to be around, and aside from the fact that she misses her sisters and things, she's an okay companion, and she agrees to go with them because what the heck, there's nothing else to do. It's cold down here. So they all make their way to the next town, which is Donkeyton, where everybody is an ass. Literally. And the donkeys do not give them the greatest greeting. They actually see like Button Bright's fox head and they think the foxes are invading them, so they try to scare them away by like kicking at these big old drums and stuff and making it sound like they're a huge army when they're really not. So they basically end up ambushing them and like walking behind like, what are you doing that for? And they're like, isn't he a fox? And he's like, no, he's just got a fox head. There's a situation we won't explain. So after they discover that and Button Bright gets to like bang the drums with his knees, which admittedly sounds like a pretty cool thing to do, they take them to their king, which is King Kikabray. And of course the Shaggy Man's got his amulet, so King Kikabray loves the Shaggy Man and decides to give him the great honor of giving him a donkey's head. So we've got one character with a fox head, one character with a donkey head now. Yeah.
Nobody wanted those heads.
Nobody asked.
And he wanted to give everybody else donkey heads, and they said, no, we don't want donkey heads.
Nobody wants to be a fox or a donkey, just you guys. Anyway, so after like complaining about it, King Kikabray does tell them like, go to the truth pond and that will remove your head. And then of course he has the goal to follow that up with, hey, can I get an invite to Ozma's birthday party? You can see a theme here. And then Dorothy, of course, good Midwestern girls, like, yeah, okay, I guess. And King Kikabray, unlike King Doc's Renard, offers them whatever they want for food. So, you know, the humans eat something normally human. The fairy, or Polychrome, eats like dew cakes and mist cakes and dewdrops. Good stuff. And so that works out pretty fine, except the next day, because they don't know what to do, he just automatically sends them the same food magically. And so they're like looking at dinner dishes, the humans are, and they're like, I don't know if I really want to eat this for brekkies, because breakfast is different than dinner. So they managed to like make some sort of breakfast out of what's there, and then they decide to leave town. You know, Shaggy Man's got the donkey head, and you know, that's great. And after they leave town, they quickly stumble upon this guy called the Musicer, aka Allegro de Capo. Anyway, he's this guy that breathes in and out, and as he breathes in and out, he's making like musical sounds, like I'm gonna say a bagpipe or an accordion. Yeah, Zydeco. Anyway, Button Bright really digs him, of course, because he's an idiot. Anyway, he's like breathing in and out and singing these little rhymes, and he asks again for an invitation to Ozma's birthday party, and Dorothy's a little more skeptical on that case, but she says, sure, I may as well ask, you know, you seem like a nice guy. And then they keep going, where they stumble upon the Scoodlers. And the Scoodlers are not a friendly bunch, unlike the first two kingdoms we encounter. The Shaggy Man tries to escape them because they're all throwing at him and they threaten to put him in soup. You want to make soup of them? And they're throwing their heads at them in order to capture them, and they're white on one side and black on the other, and they jump back and forth. They're pretty freaky looking in the drawings, actually. I don't know, you got any members of the Scoodlers you want to add in?
Just the weird part, they take their heads off and throw them at them.
Yeah. It's kind of like...
get it back.
I was just going to say, it's kind of like that part in Labyrinth where the Muppet characters take their heads off and throw them around.
And it also leads to their escape.
Yes, which we are getting to. So they capture everybody, and they put them in a cage, and while the soup is heating up, because everybody is supposed to be in the soup, the Shaggy Man has Polychrome, you know, tease the guard into throwing his head at them, and the Shaggy Man then bags up all their heads, because, you know, they're all ticked off, and everyone throws their head when they're ticked off. And he then takes the bag of heads and throws them over the cliff. So much for the Scoodlers. They're now all headless.
Well, they can't find their heads.
Yep. And then then, after escaping the Scoodlers, we reach the old impassable desert. And I think I have written the wrong name of it down because there is actually 4 named deserts around Oz. But anyway, this is, yeah, the one on the... I forget which side. We'll see in a minute. Anyway, Shaggy Man is like, okay, I know this guy called Johnny Do-It. Who's apparently, I don't know, kind of like Jack Frost, maybe? Anyway, he summons him somehow, I think by a whistle, or... No, was it a rhyme? It was a rhyme, I think. Like, Johnny Do-It, come do it. Something to that effect, I don't know. Anyway, I gotta turn the heat down just a smidge. Alright, we're cool. And he asks him to build him a sand ship, which is a big, like, you know, ship that you can sail using the air across the desert. And so they, you know, he manages to knock it out real fast because it's Johnny Do It. And everybody gets in the sand ship. They sail across the impassable desert, and they crash into the rocks on the Oz side. And it turns out they're actually in Winky Country. So for those of you that don't remember the whole layout of Oz, Winky Country is where the Tin Woodsman's living, where the Wicked Witch of the West was living. It's yellow. It's over on the west. Not the east, where Dorothy first crash lands in the land of the Munchkins. Anyway, so they stumble upon the Truth Pond while they're wandering around in the Winky Country, and Button Bright and the Shaggy Man swim around in it, and they lose their animal heads. Yay! Nobody wanted to keep that. And while wandering back, they run into Bellina, and Bellina shows them their little brood of Dorothy chicks, because she named them all Dorothy to make it easier. And they also see TikTok, and get to see TikTok again. And then they end up at the Tin Woodsman's castle, and it's all tin, and it's great. And while they're there, Dorothy tells the Shaggy Man that Oz is essentially a socialist nation. Everybody, like, works as little or as much as they want to, and everything sort of gets distributed. It's very communist, in case you were wondering. And I, yeah, tried to keep my notes short on this one. And the Shaggy Man's like, oh, that doesn't sound too dang bad, so let me see if I can persuade whoever one needs to persuade to stay. And then they keep, you know, meandering through the Winky Country. They decide to visit Jack Pumpkinhead's pumpkin patch. And on the pumpkin patch, they get to see the 3 graves of Jack's previous heads. Totally not macabre at all, yeah.
His heads keep rotting, but they find him another pumpkin. And...
Well, he started the pumpkin patch because they had a crisis after, like, the second one where they couldn't find a ripe one in time. So it's like, now I just grow them, and apparently... The climate is stable enough in Oz that they don't have winters, so you can just grow pumpkins year-round. Oh, and they ask him while they're there, Jack Pumpkinhead, about the Powder of Life, and so he explains how the Powder of Life was concocted, including one of its early uses, which was the witch Dinah's big blue bearskin rug, which was literally a bearskin, so it would, like, walk around on the end of its paws and, like, curl itself up underneath it. And then I wrote in my notes here, seems suspicious because she had to, like, use words to invoke it, whereas, yeah, the previous people using the powder didn't necessarily have to use words, although now I wrote that and I'm like, wait a minute, of course they did. They had to do the Egan Tegan thing, didn't they? Yeah, never mind. My notes are sus. There we are. Alright. Anyway, after wandering a little bit more, the Lion and the Tiger bring Ozma's chariot up to Dorothy and everybody, and they're like, hey, Ozma sent the chariot so you can come in style and not have to worry about walking anymore. Because you're a princess, remember? Remember. Anyway, the Shaggy Man marvels at the Emerald City when he gets there, and he asks if anyone actually works, again, the socialist thing. The wizard says yes, but they only work about half of their time, and they enjoy whatever the heck it is they do. Good old socialism. And then the Shaggy Man and everyone else gets, you know, all dolled up for Ozma. And the only cool point to that is the Shaggy Man has a shaggy suit full of shaggy bobs, but it's classy somehow.
Well, it wasn't dirty, you know, bum clothes like he was before. He was just shaggy and wandering the streets, you know, like a hobo.
Right on.
And now he's got some nicer clothes, but they left him shaggy because he felt more comfortable.
That's his identity.
That's his identity. He is Shaggy Man.
Anyway, they all get to meet Ozma, and Dorothy, like, you know, asks him about it, what the heck was going on. Ozma admits she made all the road spins so Dorothy could come and attend the birthday party, you know, instead of just zapping her there with the magic belt. Alright, so less Deus Ex Machina, I guess. Button Bright and Polychrome, Ozma admits were just serendipitous. She didn't plant them there, they were just happened to be on the way. The musicer was not serendipitous. He's always there. That's just where he chills. Oh, I'm sorry. I ended up mixing up my notes here. And I have dry throat, so that doesn't help. Okay, the invites were sent to the two kings, but not the musicer. That was the part about the musicer that I had misaligned because my thumb was in the wrong spot. So yeah, King Kikabray and King Reno the Fox King got invites to come to the party, so they'll see them later. And at that point, the Shaggy Man ends up confessing to stealing the love magnet. He said he actually got it off this Eskimo, but in fact, it turns out he killed the Eskimo. Yeah, nice guy. But Ozma says people in Oz are loved for themselves. So he's not allowed to keep the Shaggy Man ain't allowed to keep his magnet on him. And he's like, oh no, what do we do? So the solution is to tack the love magnet above the gate of the Emerald City so everyone who passes under it can be showered with love. Yeehaw. Yeah. The Scarecrow and the Sawhorse also return to the Emerald City. Jack the Pumpkinhead arrives, as does the Wogglebug, the Buena and the Chicks, Tick-Tock. And then this lovely parade of esteemed guests arrive, which I did like a lot as a kid, looking at all these different pictures and side histories of things you don't necessarily get to cover in the other books. So we have King Doe, the gingerbread man, Chick the cherub, and I wrote gender unknown because they never really get into it, and it looks like a girl, but they also refer to it as bi. Para Bruin, the rubber bear. Oh, and Chick the cherub is an incubator baby. Whatever that means, I'm thinking IVF, but yeah. That's what they refer to Chick the cherub, so that's kind of why I'm like, gender unknown. There's also the Reels from Happy Valley, the Nooks from the Forest of Bursey, and then comes Santa Claus, because of course, this is Ozma, Santa Claus will come. The Riles paint flowers when they bloom, and the Nooks water and care for young trees, in case you were wondering what the heck those things were. The Queen of Maryland also shows up. She is a wax doll with glass eyes. And the Candyman of Maryland comes, and he's constantly sifting sugar over himself so that he doesn't get all sticky-wicky. The Braided Man, if you remember from the last book, where they're in the middle of the tower, or the middle of the pyramid, and the guy that's selling them ruffles and flutters, he's there. Brought blocks of flutters to give to Ozma. The royal family of Ev then show up, again from book 3. So they bring a diadem of diamonds set in radium. Again, you can tell the era of when Baum is writing, because nobody's discovered radium is not, just glow-in-the-dark fun. It's radioactive. And then King Dox the Fox shows up. Then Queen Zixi of Ix. I always wanted to name something Zixi. Maybe I should have done the cat. Didn't occur to me though when we got the cat. King Bud of Noland and Princess Fluff. A lovely name. And then everyone changes and comes back for a big banquet. Again, it's a birthday party stuff. Then there's a big promenade to the pavilion where you see a bunch of magic tricks. And that ends with the wizard's invention of strong, person-sized bubbles that can actually, hold a person's weight and not pop. And Santa's all like, I want to ride home in one. Can I ride home in one? And so Santa goes off in one of the bubbles, and everybody else thinks that's the bee's knees. So Santa's like, well, I know where everyone lives, because I'm Santa. Including Button Bright. So he uses his magic to direct all of the bubbles before floating off himself. So everybody gets sent home with Santa's magic, and that's just great. Polychrome says Santa was going to tell her father where she is after he got back to the North Pole, and she's picked up relatively quickly after she makes that statement. He just drops the rainbow down, she zooms up and goes, bye! And then Ozma says the Shaggy Man can stay if he behaves himself, no more stealing, all that, no more murdering, all that jazz. And Dorothy is sent back home, once again, Deus Ex Machina, via the magic belt, after she falls asleep in a room in the Emerald City. So that is the road to Oz. Just quadruple checking. Yes. Dan, you have any final thoughts, seeing as we've hit town?
No, it was a pretty cool story.
Okay. I know you said parts of it got repetitive, but maybe I'm thinking of the next one with the paper people.
Well, it's been going for a couple of books at this point, where it seemed like some of the stories and themes were getting repeated with different characters
Right on.
doing the same kind of things, but just enough different that it would like not sound exactly the same.
Well, I got this in at a cool 20 minutes, so thank you for listening. Anyone who tuned in, and hopefully this was Christmas related.